I'm actually learning. Okay. Go away. You go away. Okay. Okay, so whenever we try to design an experiment, whenever we talk about science and talk about experiments in here, the first thing I'm going to ask you are, what are the variables? Okay, in other words, what are you going to manipulate? What are you going to measure? This is what's actually really kind of a fun way of talking about psychology. Because why does psychology need science? Why do we need to do this? Come on. Why do we need science? But how does science help us learn? I don't need science. I already know what I need to know. I've actually heard people say that. But why do we need that? We don't ever, statistically, we don't ever prove anything. We test. We test things that we call probabilities. So I'm going to write a word up here, and one of my students pointed out that anyway, I'll explain it to you in a second, and then you'll see why one of my students made fun of me. So the word construct, it's also pronounced construct. In psychology, we call it a construct. It is a psychological phenomenon. Something like self-esteem, or like in the sexuality class, we're talking about gender. Gender is a construct. What does that mean? It's a construct. You make it. You construct it. So we call it, in psychology, we have lots of things that we label, that we want to test, but they're ideas, they're not things. So we have to define these constructs. The construct that we're trying to digest in class right now is I've asked you to, last class we asked you to look at this word. In other words, we're going to do an experiment this week and next week of distracted driving. I'm going to ask for volunteers to go up to my office and drive, and you will get distracted by something. Okay? So as you're driving, what do we need to do? Sing annoying rap songs in your head over and over and over again? Out loud, so the neighbors can hear you. But before we know if you're distracted, what do we have to do? In order to test a construct, you have to have a measurement. This is the hardest thing in this entire class, is having a good measurement. So the measurement that we use in this particular thing is driving fluency. How do we know you speak a language fluently? Well, well, yeah, you have to speak, right? And you have to speak. So fluency is defined by speed and errors. Oh, if you are fluent, you can talk quickly and not make a lot of mistakes. The less mistakes you make, the more fluent you are. The less accent you have, and technically an accent is using the syllables from one language to produce the sounds of another language, right? Okay, and so that's a mistake according to fluency. But if you grew up speaking two languages, is it easier to be fluent in two languages? Yeah. If you learn a language as you get older, what happens with your fluency? It goes down. I have some friends that literally they were born in Mexico. They moved here when they were 3. They still speak with a Spanish accent. They've been speaking English since they've been 3. But why do they still speak Spanish? English. They speak Spanish with their parents all the time. So half the time they're speaking Spanish, the other half of the time they're speaking English, and they have a really heavy accent. Because having an accent at their house is the way you're supposed to sound. So the idea of fluency, if we want to measure driving fluency, there is a type of race that you can do. It's called a trials race. And this is a way of doing rally racing without breaking the law. Rally racing, it should be people driving at massive amounts of speed over short periods of time to see how fast you can go between point A and point B. What's the problem if you do that in real world? It's dangerous, people die, and people die rally racing all the time. There was in the 80s, they had no limits on the motors in some of the cars, and this Class B was the unlimited class, and these guys put these giant, V12s in like a little Peugeot sedan. And they would just spontaneously catch fire and explode and kill everybody in the car. They went over 200 miles an hour on some of the courses. Highly recommend. Anyway, Google Class B crash, YouTube. Anyway, so in modern rally racing where you can do this, and you see car clubs doing this all the time. You see like 70 Miatas going up to the mountains, numbers on their sides. Miata, Alfa Romeo. What? Oh, Miata, okay. And what they do is they set 2 points on the GPS, and whoever has the perfect average speed over those 2 points wins. So they set the course with a range. We're just going to use this simple range, 50 miles per hour. If you're too slow, you lose a point. If you're too fast, you lose a point. If you're right in the middle, 50 miles per hour, what do you get? You actually get points. So we're going to do this. You are going to be driving around a track. We're going to tell you at which speed to maintain around this track. What if you go too slow? You lose points. Not in the class. That would be cool. No. People at home trading on their Xbox to pass psychology. Yes! No. You're going to lose points. We're going to keep track of points. So every lap that you do, if you're too fast, you lose points. If you're too slow, you lose points. You have to stay at the proper speed, or average the proper speed. So then what are we going to do to you? Well, I don't know how we're going to distract you yet. And we need some ideas. So while I plug Brian into the brain scanner, I want you to come up with 3 ways to distract people while driving. Okay? That won't get me fired. Because never mind. Okay. So come up here real quick. I don't know if that one will work. I gotta tape something on one of these, because one of them's for the old one, one of them's for the new one. They look exactly the same. Okay. So what this is uses saline electric. Okay? We have 2 prototype ones with sponges in them. No idea if they're gonna work. Right? We'll find out. Okay. You can take them off for the second, and then we'll put them on again. This is so much easier than people with hair. There, sorry. All are research subject should shape their next development. That's a real discussion. Spine digits. That's a really important. Okay. All right. So that makes an excellent recording. Okay. So let me go to here. Okay. So please write those down, because after we're done messing with his head, we're going to talk about those in class. Now, I'm going to see if this works here. Oh, I've already installed that. That's not the right one. Oh, yes. Are you sure? No. Wait, yes. Hate that. Okay. All right. Give me a second. Come on. Sorry, sir, you're dead. Well, first time I've done anything. Oh, come on, let's see. Let me see if I got the right dongle. You got blue light, you're turned on, you're there. This one we used earlier in my morning class, so I know it works. Let's see. Let's get some calibrating. Come on, baby. Why don't you come over and sit here, because it might be too far away. Oh, there we go. Hold on. Sit. There we go. Oh, I got some electrodes. This is the part that's kind of irritating. Sorry. So each one of these dots, oh, one fell out. Yeah. So each one of these things is going to be recording from the surface of his head. And of course the ones that are really hard to get to, the ones that are really. Sorry. Yeah, no, I'll say that. So just use blue next thing. Okay. Believe it or not, they actually, when you do this for real research, they do use real glue. Come on. Yeah. You can, once you get it on there, you can see. But if this one doesn't, oh no, son of a. Yeah, that one's good. This one's not doing well. Again, so we printed a whole batch of new electrodes. We printed a whole bunch of these. These are the printed ones that we just got. I just need, one of my students needs to sand all the edges of them, because when you print them, they're going to tag when you print stuff. All right. So this one is a really important one to get stuck. Use this one back here. Those are the ones that it records as a moving film. Not too bad. There we go. There we go. Done. That one. That's there. Okay, this one. How many times can I drop one of these? Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm almost accepting of that. You're fine. No, you're fine. Once they connect, they're pretty robust. Oh, this one's the one, two, a little bit further. This is one of the printed ones that I tried to glue this morning. Oh, come on! No! This was one of the ones that I glued this morning. And we'll see his mind in a couple seconds here. Right. It's going to drip down your neck a little bit there. Okay, so my freshly glued one this morning. We've got a nut working. It's not awesome, but it'll do. Okay. So now we open the test bench. And let's see what we got. Okay. So, not too bad. A little noisy. So one of the things that I really want to do is eventually we'll get this fixed so we could actually do a lot better recordings of his brain and the students' brains in general. So what you're actually seeing is electrical activity from the surface of his brain. Okay, so close your eyes. We will test his tiredness. You're tired. Okay. So what we see is the one that's easiest to recognize on here is there's kind of a burnt orange one. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of make a screenshot really quickly. This one right here. Okay, so this one, when you watch this, you can see how when he closes his eyes, see these little patterns right here? See the repetitive pattern right there? Okay, so let me close this. Right. Okay, so you're doing much better now. You're much more relaxed. So when you see these little repetitive patterns, like these little right here, when they're all exactly the same, like this little batch right here, that means that you're getting actually a little bit sleepy. And I'll show you how we can do this here. The longer you keep your eyes closed, see, look at this. See how the brain waves are getting more straight up and down? There's a nice little pattern right there, like they're exactly the same. Those are what's called alpha waves. Alpha waves are when you're relaxed and chill. So like when he just clenched his teeth right here, what do you see? Lots of movement. Okay, so open up your eyes and look at this. Okay, so when he opens his eyes and looks around, how badly is your vision? Okay, they're blurry. Okay, so what you notice is, you notice that where the mouse is, it doesn't look regular anymore. What does it look like? As opposed to just regular jagged, they're flowy. Okay, so if you blink your eyes 5 times, look at the top. Can you see the blink? And down here, there you go again. Okay. So whenever he's looking around, you can actually see, these are his eyes. This one's the one that's not quite working very well. And, okay, so close your eyes again. Watch the pattern of the purple one, where the mouse is. See how it changes? So if he were in a good relaxed state, we could make these waves get really big. I had a student named Arthur a couple years ago that did this, and he got totally stoned before class. And it was really funny because, I'm just going to take a picture. So see how these brain waves are, you can open your eyes if you want. These brain waves are really consistent across, okay? And you can see on this one, you can see a really nice burst of consistent brain activity. Looking on this one, I don't see any on that blue one. Okay, but you can kind of see these regular patterns. Well, his would go like this, and all of a sudden go like this. Like really big. And you usually only see those when you're falling asleep. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And he goes, are you really tired? Because, and he's sitting there, so under the influence of some types of marijuana, what happens is your consciousness will fixate. As opposed to just paying attention to the world around you, all of a sudden you're like, she flipped her hair. And all of a sudden your consciousness just sticks on that particular thing. And that's why people, when they're stoned, really like repetitive music. Because, I really feel the vibe, man. Okay? Then the reason you really feel the vibe is because your consciousness can really stick on that particular stimuli. So if we had all 14 electrodes working properly, we could get a lot more information. Buffering. Buffering? Yeah, look at. So, not sure why the computer's buffering. Anyway, so let's test your. Did we lose ourselves? No battery meter detected. Here, just turn your head side to side again. All right, so let's get rid of this one because this one needs some work. We're gonna put the other one on him. I wanted you to see his electrodes though. These are gonna go flying everywhere. 1, 2. Oh, too bad, only 2. Okay. I got it. Just to replace these from the company where I bought this from is $185 just to replace the little plastic part. And the software that I have, it costs $100 a freaking month to use the software. There's some open source versions of the software which I'm going to use, which work way better. Okay, and I just don't have time to set it up yet. But, okay, so now this one, here, this one's significantly easier. A little bit more uncomfortable though. Yeah, it should be fun. Great. Okay, so this one uses what's called a gel electrode. It can't mess with that one on that side because that's the one that does the ground. So we'll get this set up in a second here. Okay, this one. Good. Okay. Oh, magic keyboard. Awesome. Why does it do that? Okay, anybody know the Windows command to make it not automatically? The keyboard, it's doing like fancy keyboard commands. What the hell's wrong with this stupid... Sorry. It's like Control M or something. It's like it's the shortcuts that these stupid things do. I can't name it because every time I type something, it does something. Oh, voice prompts. Shut up. Xbox control. I'm sorry, live stream. PowerPoint. All right. Let's see. Go close that. Continue. Cancel. Okay. Fix dongles. Oh, this is the connect. I don't want to put you as Tina or Charles. Create new profile. Oh, she's really smart. You might want to try it. Okay. I can't do anything. Hi there. Ah, Ryan. Ryan? Ryan. Ryan. Hey, Cortina! Ryan! Hey, whoppa! For now, hey, Cortina, play. Create new profile. That's all. Hey, Cortina, play. Let's go. Okay. I don't know how to use Windows, but I know how to not use it properly. Okay, so what we're going to do, we have to check our headset here. Oh, hello. Okay. Connect headset. Hold on. Turn game for a second. Make sure it's turned on. You are turned on. Okay, turn that on. Let's try this other one because it might not work with that other dongle. Refresh. I don't know. I swear I've done this before. I did it last class. It worked fine. Okay, so I'm going to go here